Hey there, fourth graders. I hope your angle work went very well yesterday. Remember, if you get cold, go in the corner of the room because that's where it's 90 degrees. Today we're going to be working on adding angles together when we know the measure of two angles. How can we combine them to know a measure of the big angle? But before that, I don't have a joke today, I'm sorry, but I just have a really, sad story to ttell you. So there was this one time, and I had a student. I won't name the student. I just want to keep their name private, but I walk over to them and we're working on multiplication stuff and they're doing it on the floor, and everyone else, every other student in the whole class, they're doing their multiplication work at their desk, and this kid is just like sprawled out doing it on the floor, and I was really upset because it's why would you be doing your multiplication on the floor instead of using your desk or table that you've got to sit at? So I say, hey student, why are you doing your multiplication work on the floor? And then the student looked up at me and said, because you said not to use tables. Like times tables, said not to use tables. I'm just kidding. That was a joke. It was a joke. I kind of played it up like it wasn't, but it really was, because I said not to use tables, and so the student thought they couldn't work at their desk. But really I meant, not to use like your times table sheet. Okay, you're right. Not my best. All right, so let's take a look at, let's say I've got an angle. Let's do this kind of funky picture. So here I've got, really, if you take a look at this, there's actually three angles here. I have this angle here, that's this small opening there. I have this angle here, that's this small opening here. And then I have a bigger, well, it's still not huge, but a bigger angle from there to there. So what your math task is going to be today is it's going to ask you, how can I figure out the measure of the big angle when that gives me the amount of two small angles? And some students really struggle with this one, but I want you to remember one thing. All we're doing here is part, whole. I know every single one of you have learned about part, whole before. It is in the first grade core. So what that means is that if I have one part and I add it to another part, what I get is a whole, right? That is the basic concept of addition. So it's like all of fourth grade at White Pine Elementary. We have part, which is Mr. D's class. We have part, which is Miss Canfield's class. And if we combine those parts, we will have the whole, or how many students are all together in fourth grade at White Pine Elementary. So let's take a look. What's one part that I have? Well, I have 35 as a part. And then let's take a look at this next part. I have 30 as a part. Now I'm labeling these as parts because they are a smaller chunk of the whole thing. They are not the whole in and of themselves. So I add those two together and it actually equals 65. So I know, and that's going to be degrees, I know that the measure of this bigger angle from here to here is 65 degrees. So when they give you two parts, all you have to do is add them up. 35 degrees plus 30 degrees is going to equal 65 degrees. Let's try another one. Let's try this angle. Let's say that I have 20 degrees down here, and then let's say that I have 60 degrees up here. So what it's asking for me to find is there's this little angle right here, and then there's a little bit bigger angle right here, but it's wanting us to find out what's the measure of this overall angle, or from here to there. So to do that, I ask myself, what's my one part? I have a part that's 20 degrees. I have a part that is 60 degrees. And then I have all together, that's going to equal 80 degrees. If I add my part plus my part, I get my whole of 80 degrees. So that means that this angle from here to here is 80 degrees. Those ones generally aren't too bad, where you add a part plus the other part to get the whole. But let's say they threw a curveball at you. let's say that they did a shape like this. And let's say that rather than telling you the part and the part, let's say that they told you that this angle measure is 70 degrees. And let's say they told you that this big angle is 130 degrees. In which case, if this one's 70 and this one from here to here is 130, the part that I don't know is this guy right here, or gal, this person, this angle right here. So in this case, do I have a part plus a part to equal a whole? I actually don't. I have a part, 70, and I have a whole, which is 130, and then I have a question mark. So I'm just going to put my question mark there. So in essence, what we're doing now is we're saying 70 plus a number equals 130. Now there's a couple of different ways you could do that. Is we could count on from 70 to 130 and see what number it is, see how many we get to. Or we could go the other direction, and I would actually do this. I would do 130 minus 70, and that equals 60. So that means that this angle measure is 60 degrees, and I can check that by going 70 plus 60, and that equals 130. So the trick for this one, the trick for this lesson today, is ask yourself, which angles, you just have to find which one are the whole. Are you looking for a whole? If you are, then add the two parts together. If you know a whole and a part, then you need to subtract the whole minus the part to fill the other part. That's really all we're doing with today's math lesson. Let me just make sure that that's the questions that it looks like it's giving you. Yeah. So ask yourself, if you have a part and a part, then add them together to get a whole. If you have a part and a whole, then do the whole minus the part to get the other part. Okay, thank you so much for watching. You can rewatch those examples again if you need to. Thank you. Bye-bye.